In 1989, a vet opened the chest of a dead racehorse. He had done this thousands of times before. This time, he stopped cold. The heart was more than twice the size of a normal horse's. Nothing was wrong with it. It was simply enormous and completely healthy. The horse was Secretariat. That hidden heart is why no one has beaten his records in over 50 years. Nobody knew it was there while he was alive. This is why the greatest racehorse ever may have been physically impossible. In 1973, Secretariat won the Triple Crown, American racing's 3 greatest races in a single spring. He was the first horse to do it in 25 years. But it was how he won that people still cannot believe. The last of the 3 races was the Belmont Stakes, a mile and a half of dirt. He won it by 31 lengths. 31 lengths is not a close finish. You could fit half a football field between him and the second-place horse. The other horses were not just beaten. They looked like they were standing still. His time that day was 2 minutes and 24 seconds. It is still the fastest any horse has ever run that distance on dirt, more than 50 years later. Weeks earlier, in the Kentucky Derby, he had already made history. He became the first horse ever to run the Derby in under 2 minutes. That record still stands, too. And he did it in a way almost no horse can. He ran each quarter of the race faster than the one before it. Most horses tire and slow down near the finish. Secretariat sped up. The middle race, the Preakness, came with a strange twist. The track's electronic timer broke that day and posted a slow time. But the stopwatches held by hand at the track caught a much faster one. For years, the 2 times disagreed, and the slow one stood on the record. In 2012, officials reviewed the old race film frame by frame. They made it official. Secretariat had run the fastest Preakness ever. The clock simply could not keep up with him. 3 races, 3 records that still stand today. 50 years of faster tracks, better training, and bigger prizes have not touched a single one of them. To see how one animal did that, you have to look at what nobody could see while he was alive. Secretariat died in October of 1989, and what killed him had nothing to do with his heart. He had laminitis, a painful disease of the hoof. He was in too much pain to go on, and he was gently put down to end it. The vet who examined his body was Dr. Thomas Swerczek at the University of Kentucky. He had performed thousands of horse autopsies over his career. When he opened the chest, he found a heart unlike any he had ever seen. A normal horse's heart weighs about 9 pounds, roughly the size of a large melon. This one was almost twice that. In the vet's own words, it was larger than any horse heart he had ever measured. Picture holding a healthy heart closer to the size of a small basketball. That is the kind of thing he carried. In thousands of autopsies, he said, nothing he had ever seen compared to it. Here is the part that matters most. The heart was not sick. It was not swollen or damaged. Every chamber and every valve was normal. It was a perfectly healthy heart that simply happened to be huge. One honest note is important here. That heart was never actually put on a scale. You may hear a number like 22 pounds, but that figure is an estimate, not a real weighed measurement. He had no way to weigh it properly that day, and no reason to expect it. He only described what was in front of him. What we can say for certain is what the vet saw. More than twice the normal size and completely healthy. For an animal built to move oxygen, that is everything. To understand that heart, you have to understand what a horse's body is really built to do. A galloping horse is, more than anything, a machine for moving oxygen. Muscles need oxygen to keep working hard. The moment they run short, they tire and slow down. As they run low, They fill with a burning ache that makes them weaken. That burn is what forces most horses to ease off. Oxygen travels in the blood. The heart is the pump that pushes that blood around the body. A bigger heart pushes more blood with every single beat. Think of each heartbeat as a scoop. A bigger heart carries a bigger scoop, moving more blood with the very same effort. More blood per beat means more oxygen reaching the muscles per beat. So, a healthy heart, twice the normal size, can feed the muscles far more oxygen before they tire. The bigger and healthier the pump, the longer the muscles can stay at full power. His stayed there longer than anyone's. That is the whole advantage. And Secretariat was born with an extreme version of it. But the heart is only one part of the engine. The next part lives inside every horse alive today, including your own. Horses carry a built-in blood tank. It is an organ called the spleen. The spleen stores a large reserve of red blood cells, the tiny cells that carry oxygen through the body. At rest, the horse keeps much of that reserve tucked away and unused. But the moment it runs hard, the spleen squeezes and dumps that stored blood into the bloodstream. In seconds, the blood carries far more oxygen than it did at rest. It is like switching from a narrow fuel line to a wide one, right when the muscles need it most. This is why horses, as a species, take in oxygen several times faster than even a top human athlete. No amount of training lets a person come close. It is simply how the horse is built. An elite human cyclist has one of the finest oxygen engines in nature. An average horse roughly doubles him, and a great one does more. That gap is not the heart alone. It is the pump, the blood tank, and a huge pair of lungs all working at once. We do not have these numbers for Secretariat himself. No one measured his lungs or his blood back then, but he ran on this same horse engine, driven by an unusually powerful pump. There is one more piece, and this one you can actually watch. Speed comes from two things: how long each stride is, and how many strides the horse takes each second. Secretariat's stride was reported at around 25 feet, longer than most racehorses of his time. A longer stride covers more ground with every leap. At full gallop, there is a moment when all four of his feet were off the ground at once. He was flying, in the most literal sense, between each stride. Scientists at MIT even studied his movement from the old race films. A long stride, paired with a quick rhythm, multiplies into raw speed at the front of the pack. Remember how he ran each quarter of the race faster than the last? This is how. His oxygen supply simply outlasted everyone else's. So picture everything that had to come together in one animal. An oversized, healthy heart. The powerful blood system every horse shares. And an unusually long, smooth stride. All of it in the same body at the same time. It would be easy to stop here and say the answer is simple. Big heart, fast horse. But there is a problem with that story. And its name was Sham. Sham finished second to Secretariat in both the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont. In almost any other year, Sham himself would have been remembered as a champion. When Sham later died, the same vet examined his heart too. It was also unusually large, reported at around 18 pounds. It was the biggest heart that vet had ever seen, until he opened up Secretariat. So here were two horses, both with enormous hearts, in the very same races. And one of them still lost by 31 lengths. For years, people pointed to Sham's giant heart as proof the big heart theory worked. It quietly showed the opposite. That tells you something important about the whole story. A big heart clearly helps. But on its own, it does not decide a race. It is one advantage, stacked on top of many others. After that autopsy, breeders wanted to bottle whatever Secretariat had. If a giant heart made a great racehorse. Surely you could breed for it. A theory took hold in the racing world, and it is still repeated today. It is called the X factor. The idea goes like this. There is supposedly a single gene for an extra-large heart, and that gene rides on the X chromosome, one of the two chromosomes that decide whether an animal is male or female. Because of how that chromosome is passed down, the theory says the big heart comes mainly through the mother's side. A male foal gets his single X chromosome only from his mother, so he would show fully whatever heart she carried. A filly carries two of those chromosomes, so her side of the story gets muddier, and the tidy rule starts to slip. Secretariat's mother was a mare named Something Royal, and she was said to carry it. It is a tidy story. One gene and one simple rule. Find the right mare, breed the next big heart. For decades, that idea shaped real breeding decisions and real money. Buyers began paying more for mares from certain heart lines, all hoping to find the next Something Royal. It gave people a clean answer to a mystery and a rule they could use. That is why it spread so fast and stuck so hard. There is just one problem. No one has ever found that gene. Scientists have mapped the horse's genes in detail. There is no single large heart switch sitting on the X chromosome. Heart size does not work that way. In horses, as in people, heart size is shaped by many genes working together. It is also shaped by body size and by training. There is no lone gene you can simply select for. That does not mean heart size is a myth. It is real. It is partly inherited, and bigger-hearted horses do tend to perform a little better on average. Vets have measured that link for decades. First, through the electrical signal of the heartbeat. The first method, back in the 1960s, guessed a horse's heart size from that signal, and bigger scores often meant better runners. But later studies could not always repeat it. Sometimes the signal and the real heart size did not match at all. Later, they used ultrasound to look at the heart directly. The connection is real, but it is loose, and it is never a guarantee. So the honest picture holds two things at once. A big heart genuinely helps. But the neat single gene story that promised to copy it was never true. So why call the greatest racehorse ever impossible? Because of everything that had to land in one animal at the very same time. An oversized heart that was somehow perfectly healthy. A powerful blood and lung system. A long, efficient stride. Legs sound enough to take the pounding of full speed. And a mind willing to run all out. Each of those traits on its own is rare. The odds of all of them appearing together in a single foal are almost nothing. Every foal is a fresh shuffle of its parents' genes. You cannot deal the same rare hand twice on purpose. Secretariat was not a formula anyone designed. He was a coincidence, and even he was fragile. That record-setting body ran on the same delicate legs and feet as any other horse. In the end, it was his feet that failed him, not his heart. Peak performance and peak durability are not the same thing. The same extremes that made him great also left him almost no margin for error. Breeders have chased another Secretariat for more than 50 years. They have every pedigree, every record, every tool we could ask for. And his times still stand. Maybe that is the real lesson. Greatness in an animal is never one number or one gene. It is many rare things landing at once, and then never landing the same way again. The next time someone sells you a single number to spot a great horse, remember Sham. He had one of the largest hearts ever measured. And he still finished second. Judge an animal by everything it is, not by one number someone put on a chart. The most measurable edge a horse ever had still did not win a race alone. Numbers can describe a horse. They do not make one. If moments like this change the way you see every horse, subscribe and let's keep decoding them together.